Hello, and happy June reset. I have not done one of these videos in so long. I actually looked it up on my channel, and the last time I filmed a reset video was in February. And if you guys know me, you know that this is because I got married in March, and then I went on my honeymoon in end of April into May, so there was just a lot going on in my life. And I just didn't really have time to sit down and do a reset because I was just honestly living like a lot was going on in my life. So I'm so happy to say that things are finally calming down, and I absolutely loved those last couple months. But yeah, there was a lot going on, so it's really nice to like sit down with you guys again and to do a reset. So welcome if you are new here. My name is Sarah Jane. I'm a PR practitioner living in DC, and I make content about life in my 30s. So if that type of content interests you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe because it really helps support my channel. And let's go ahead and get into the reset. I had to look up again how to do this because I completely forgot. So first, we're starting off with things that I am grateful for in the month of May. First things first, in the month of May, I took my honeymoon. My husband and I went to St. Lucia for 2 weeks. It was an incredible experience. I haven't really made like a video talking a lot about it. I've thought about it and sort of giving a review to the resort that I stayed at with, but I haven't done it yet. But anyhow, I loved spending 2 weeks with him. It was just such an amazing time to have uninterrupted time with my partner. Like, we've never had that before, and it was just so magical. I highly recommend, because I feel like some people don't end up taking a honeymoon, or they take like a really short one. Like, of course, do whatever is available to you, but taking that honeymoon was just absolutely amazing. And I posted like all the time on my Instagram. Instagram was the one platform that I maintained while I was on my honeymoon because I just had so much fun like taking pictures. I'm a photographer, so I love to take photos and share them, so I took a ton of photos. So which means also, if you're not following me on Instagram, you should. Second thing I'm grateful for the month of May is being able to visit New York City. So if you have been following me for a while, you know that I lived in New York. Then COVID happened and I ended up leaving New York. And it was a really hard time, and I wasn't ready to leave New York yet. And you know, it is what it is, and it's been 3 years since I've been back. I did go back for a very short time to buy my wedding dress, but I was in and out of New York very quickly. So actually being able to go for a week, I went for work, and kind of like go back to my old stomping grounds was such a treat. So for the work week, we were staying in Hell's Kitchen, which isn't a neighborhood that I really visited a lot when I lived there, but it was really nice to explore. And then I had my husband fly up over the long weekend because it was Memorial Day weekend. And when he came, that's when I visited my old neighborhood on the Upper East Side. That's when I showed him where my old office used to be in Midtown. We walked to Central Park, and I showed him like where I used to take Cider, our dog, when I lived there. And it was so good, and I got to meet up with so many of my old friends and catch up, and it was such an amazing experience, and I am so grateful that I was able to do that. You know, I don't really just go up to New York anymore, so it was such a great time, and I'm so grateful for that. The last thing I'm grateful for in the month of May is not having to jump right back into school. So also, again, if you've been part of this channel, you will know that I have been in grad school for the last 2 years. I am at Georgetown, and I'm doing their public relations and corporate communications program. And planning a wedding, working full time, and going to grad school was a lot on me mentally, physically, all of it. So the semester of my wedding, I took a leave of absence from school, and I finally have re-enrolled back into school now that the wedding is over. But I found out that the particular course that I've decided to take, it's my last elective, is one that follows an A-B module. So it starts later in the summer, and it's a lot more condensed. And so that means that I got to have like a month off from school where I wasn't wedding planning, I wasn't in school, I'm just living life, and that's just been such a luxury. And I haven't had that in so long, and so it's just been really nice just to have some time to come down from wedding planning, come down from the honeymoon, and chill for a minute before I hop right back into school, because I have my last elective and then I'm going directly into capstone, and life is about to get a little hectic again for the next 2 semesters. Alrighty, so that's everything I am grateful for. Now I want to talk about the books that I read in May, because it's been my biggest reading month yet. I read 6 books in the month of May. That is very unlike me. I usually read 2 or 3, but because I was on a 2-week honeymoon, I was able to read a lot, and it was awesome. I loved it because I did not get to read a lot leading up to the wedding. So I'm gonna go in chronological order of what I read. First I read Pineapple Street. This is by Jenny Jackson. This is a book that takes place in New York, specifically in Brooklyn. It's about there's 3 main characters, and they're all sisters. 2 of them are blood sisters, one's a sister-in-law, and it sort of follows each of their life. The one that marries into the family really like struggles with the family dynamic. The second one, she has a lot of issues and deals with financial guilt because her family does have so much money. And then the third one is someone who gave up her trust fund to marry the man she loved. So obviously it deals a lot with like New York City culture, being affluent, and sort of navigating that. And at the time when I read this book, I hadn't gone to New York City yet, so I loved it because I could see and feel the culture of New York in this book, and it just felt like a warm hug, honestly. But I just thought it was juicy. I thought it was fun. It was kind of gossipy. It was a nice like light read, but still touches on topics that are kind of more serious. And so if you're looking for something like that, I do recommend it. So I gave this book 4 stars. Next up, I read Archer's Voice. I feel like this is about to be very controversial, by Mia Sheridan. So many people love this book. Like so many people that I absolutely respect on BookTube and BookTok. And I was really excited to read it. I don't think there's anything necessarily really wrong with the book. I think I am not much of a romance reader, which I also didn't really think about, even though it says a love story. This follows the story of Bree. She moves to a new town in Pelion, Maine. She's sort of running away and recuperating after going through something really traumatic. She meets a guy named Archer who isn't able to speak. He's mute, and it follows their unraveling of kind of what happened to him, what happened to her, their healing. There's definitely a lot of spice in this book if you're into spice. So really good from that perspective. I wanted there to be a little bit more. Like I felt like something was missing. But it is such a good romance book. It just wasn't a good book for me. I just feel like I'm not into romance. I appreciate the book for what it is. And I think if you're into a romance book, you would really like this one. But for me, it wasn't a top one. I gave it 3.5 stars. All right, next book is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. And I loved this book. It was absolutely amazing. So this is essentially about a wedding that's taking place in a remote part of Ireland, and it follows a couple of POVs. So you have the bride, you have the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid. So 5 different POVs that you're kind of like following around, and essentially there is a murder, and it's like a modern day whodunit. Loved this book. It was like exciting, intense, and kind of moody. I felt like I could really understand that I could really feel the tension when I was reading it, which I love when I can feel something when I'm reading. And I didn't see the ending coming. I was like, wait, what? I was shook. So I really enjoyed this book. And I gave this book 4.5 stars. Because I liked Lucy Foley so much, I did pick up another book from her. This is called The Hunting Party. So similar vibes of like a group of friends getting together for an event. So for the other book, The Guest List, they were getting together because of a wedding. This one, they're getting together for New Year's, a group of friends that go together at Oxford. This one was a little bit harder to follow along with at the beginning because there are more characters. So the other one, you had really 5 POVs. This one had about 8. You have the beautiful one, the golden couple, the volatile one, the new parents, the quiet one, the city boy, and the outsider. Not to mention the estate manager and the groundskeeper. So a lot more characters. But yeah, I felt like there were too many characters, and I do think that it made it confusing. It took me about 100 pages to really get them all straight, and I think she did that, she being Foley did that to sort of keep the reader guessing of who done it, because once again there is a murder and you're trying to figure out what happened. I feel like she just could have taken out like one or two. So that's a con. Some of the pros I liked about this book, I really enjoyed the surprise ending, sort of like the guest list. I didn't really see it coming until maybe the last 10 pages, and then I was like, wow, like this is what's happening. That is like something I really appreciate about an author, is if they can just keep me guessing and I can't guess it in the middle. And I love that once I could get a grapple on the characters, that this quickly became a page turner for me. I finished it so quickly. I did have two other things that I didn't like about this book. One of them was that I didn't feel like I could connect with a single character. They were all unique in sort of their own way, but none of them really resonated with me. So I don't know if that's like a personal problem. I just feel like I couldn't see myself in any single character, which I like when I'm able to resonate with a character. I get more, I think, emotionally invested with the book at that point. My other issue with this book is I do feel like it was a little bit too similar to the guest list. Some of the key elements are similar. So you essentially have an isolation. This one was in Scotland, this one was in Ireland. There's a big storm. This one was a rainstorm. This one was a snowstorm. You have a group of friends. They're all partying. So the basic elements were the same. I just wish that there had been a little bit more of a variation. And I actually have read reviews online on like Goodreads that Lucy Foley has actually done this before, where she kind of keeps things similar. So there's another book from her called The Paris Apartment that I want to read, but I think I'm actually going to wait to read it so I can give some time to like get over these books, so that way it's a little bit more fresh when I do read it, just in case it does follow like that similar storyline. But I did love The Hunting Party regardless, and I gave it 4 stars. Alrighty, the next book I read was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, a little backstory. I have read many Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. The first one being The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Loved that book. That is one of my favorite books from her, if not my favorite book thus far. Then I read Malibu Rising. I didn't love Malibu Rising. Then I read Carrie Soto Is Back. Once again, didn't love that. So when my book club chose this book as our next book, I really just wasn't into it. I don't love the cover. I'm not really like rock and roll girl. But I read it because they're reading it, right? And I've been disappointed with the last 2 books by TJR. Let me tell you, this book is up there with my top favorites with like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Like, this is an amazing book. So this follows a fictional rock band based off of Fleetwood Mac, honestly, and how they kind of got together, how they expanded to include Daisy Jones, and just their story. One of the things I love about TJR is that she can just capture the world of the characters so vividly, like you feel like you're in it. From the initial pages of this book, I was really captivated because it was written differently than all of her other books. This was written in an oral history format, so someone is like interviewing and the characters talking, and you're getting multiple POVs of the band members, and it just made the experience a lot more intimate as a reader, reading it from the characters like POV and storytelling, which is also interesting because then there isn't really like a sense of this is what actually happened in history, because it's people's perception of what happened on one particular day or event or things like that. So it's that part was super interesting. Second, I really liked that TJR took the band and showed it to the reader from the inception to kind of the peak of the band. I, as a reader, got very invested with the band, just following them on that journey. And then third, I was actually very surprised to find out that this is not a real band. When I first started reading it, I thought this was a real band because the beginning pages actually say that the Six has never told their story until now. So I was like, oh my god, this is a real story. It is indeed not a real story. But what makes this amazing to me is that TJR wrote all the songs. So she says in her author's note that it was really important, she felt that it was really important to actually have songs to go along with the book, because how can you have a rock band if they don't have any songs? So she wrote all the songs. And then and I love that. I just think that's so cool and adds a layer of depth to a novel. And then I ended up watching the show, which was amazing as well. I literally finished the show in 2 days. It's on Amazon Prime. And so, okay, I have a couple thoughts about the show. And I actually just finished writing my blog about that this morning, which if you don't know, I do have a blog where I talk about all the books that I read. So if you're ever like wondering, what am I reading? Like, you can just go to my blog and you can see what I'm up to. Anyway, so a couple things about the show. First, I was a little nervous to watch the show because a lot of times directors take creative liberties into changing a book, but I am happy to share that the book is very similar to I'm very happy to share that the show is very similar to the book, which I really like. The only way they deviated is when there was room for creativity. So for example, there is 2 characters. One really hated the protagonist, the band lead singer, and you don't really know why, and the show ended up connecting some dots that aren't really evidenced in the book, but that you can see it's very evidenced in the show. So things like that, they kind of connected dots, which I really appreciated. Another thing about the show that I really liked is whenever I read the book, I can typically envision what the character looks like, but because this is written in an oral history format, there's no really description of any of these characters, except maybe if that they're beautiful or something like that. But the casting director of Daisy Jones and the Six just did such a good job of picking actors that fit the vibe of the characters in this book. Like, I was floored watching it. I was just like, oh my god, like, this is Billy Dunn. Like, this is Daisy Jones. Absolutely. Like, I was completely sold on the characters. And then another thing, guys, is that the actors learned how to sing and they learned how to play the instruments that they play in this book. Like, isn't that insane? I think that is true mark of professionalism and commitment from an actor, I think. So the people singing in the show and on Spotify, because you can listen to all of their songs on Spotify, is really them singing, which I think is amazing. And so I just loved that. I loved how intertwined and how many layers of depth there were into this storyline between the book, the music on Spotify, and the TV show. It is all so interwoven and paints just such an amazing story, and I just can't stop raving about this enough. This was a 5-star read. Okay, end of story. It was a 5-star read, and you should go pick up this book. So I actually said 6 at the beginning. I read 5 books because I just realized that the book that I was going to include in this, it's technically June, so I should not include it. So I'll include that in my next reset. Anywho, so those were all the books that I read in the month of May, and I loved them so much. Okay, so now we're actually going to move on to the reset. So normally in these videos, I reflect on my goals from last month, but because I haven't filmed a reset in so long, I don't have that. So we're actually going to be starting fresh with just fresh goals. So this is my Notion template that I use for like all of my resets. I just literally did a quick copy and paste of what I had on my last reset, which was in February. I changed the cover because I'm feeling very lemony, and put in a new quote that I found. Everything good, everything magical happens between the months of June and August, which I loved. So this is going to also change a little bit more because yeah, like I still have like my wedding section in here, so I think we can actually delete this. I don't know. Alright, cool. So now we're down to 3 columns. So my categories used to be health and wellness, personal and professional, personal finances, and wedding planning. Obviously, like, that's kind of different now. So starting with health and wellness, I've actually started a new workout regime using an app called Form. A girl I went to undergrad with, like, highly recommended it. I tried their free trial. I loved it, and I've been really into it. So I I have a couple things. So one, I want to stick to doing a workout. I think 5 days a week is really ambitious for me, just being really realistic with my schedule, with work and everything. So I'm going to try to work out. I'm going to do form workout 3 days a week. I think that is very doable for me. I also, in the month of June, I did gain some weight from my honeymoon. You know, like when you eat and drink all the time and don't move your body for 2 weeks, that happens. It's okay. But I do want to get back to my former wedding weight. So I think realistically, I could try to lose 5 pounds. We're going to go 4 pounds just to not put too much pressure on ourselves. All right. Then I think those are two very sustainable things. Going into personal and professional, so let's go ahead, and I have started doing workout, like I started doing like work outfits on my TikTok, and when I went to New York I got behind on that, but I do want to keep focusing on TikTok because I feel like there's so much room for growth potential there versus any of the other social media platforms. So I am going to try to, you know what, we'll keep it to 3. Upload 3 TikToks a week. I think that's totally doable. And then I feel like that's it for social media. I'm going to have to start back school in June, so start back at school. That should be an easy one, but one that I need to like mentally prepare for. And then is there any other personal or professional goal that I have? I think maintaining a social calendar is important to me. During COVID, I kind of fell off of doing social calendars, and being back in New York, reaching out to old friends, kind of like getting back into the groove, felt really good. I want to like keep that up. Last up is personal finances. I don't really talk about personal finances anymore on this channel. This channel used to really be dedicated to it. And now that my husband and I are married, I just feel a little bit weird talking about it now on this channel versus when it was just me. So so I don't necessarily know if I want to like assign a goal to that. So I have personal financial goals. I don't think I'm ready to share them right now on this channel. Know that they exist. I'm just not going to be recording it on this channel, at least for now. Maybe I'll change my mind later in the future, but that's kind of where I'm at in the process. Oh, I do have one more personal goal. I want to, so I'm slowly in the process of changing my last name. I wanted to wait until after the honeymoon just because of like airline tickets and things. So I have changed my social security name and I've changed my driver's license. I'm just waiting for it to come in. Next step would be changing my passport, and so that's going to be a goal, is to change name on passport. Oh, and you know what? I do have another personal goal. I want to, but I think this is going to be more of a health and wellness goal because I think reading is wellness, but I do want to maintain reading. So I'm going to say read 3 books, which is typically what I read when I'm not on vacation and I'm just having a normal month. So read 3 books. Okay, so we have 7 goals in the month of June. That's a lot less than the normal amount of goals I have, but I no longer am wedding planning. And I don't have this huge financial goal that I'm saving up for. So this is where we're at. And I'm happy with it. This makes me happy. Alrighty guys, so that's it for today's June reset. I hope you enjoyed it and coming back on here and catching up with me. I know I enjoyed it. So anywho, I will talk to you guys in another one, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.